My family and I paused to reflect on the life and loss of a sovereign who meant so much to us all, and to celebrate anew the many blessings of her memory.
For decades, the British monarchy has guarded its secrets with polished silence. But behind palace walls, tensions can simmer dangerously close to the surface. This time, it's not whispers. It's a command. Reports suggest King Charles III has issued a shocking final ultimatum to Queen Camilla, demanding the immediate return of treasured pieces once belonging to Queen Elizabeth II. But why now? What sparked this sudden confrontation? And what does it reveal about a royal rift the palace can no longer hide? And do you really believe Camilla could have unlawfully taken possession of the treasures? Let us know in the comments. To help us create more videos, please subscribe. A child's game that opened a buried chapter. While the adults were absorbed in elegant conversation and quiet celebration, the palace belonged to the children in an entirely different way. For Princess Charlotte and her younger brother, Prince Louis, the grandeur of the moment held little meaning. To them, the palace was not a symbol of history or power. It was a vast and exciting playground waiting to be explored. Their laughter echoed freely through the long, polished corridors, breaking through the stillness that usually defines such royal spaces. They ran with unrestrained joy, their small footsteps tapping rhythmically against the floors as they chased one another in a spirited game of hide-and-seek. Curtains became hiding spots, doorways turned into escape routes, and every corner seemed to hold a new possibility. In that moment, the palace felt less like a monument and more like a living, breathing home. But then, something unexpected happened. Something that would quietly shift the tone of the day. In the middle of their lively game, Charlotte drifted farther away than she ever had before. What pulled her there? Instinct, curiosity, or the thrill of adventure? She could not quite tell. One moment she was laughing with the others, and the next, she stood alone in a quiet part of the house, facing a door few dared to approach. It was the private bedroom of King Charles III and Queen Camilla, a place wrapped in silence and quiet importance. This was not just any room. It carried a sense of deep privacy, almost like a secret waiting to be protected. The door was slightly open. Charlotte paused. Something about the stillness inside felt different, heavier, calmer, almost as if the room itself was watching. Behind her was noise and excitement. Ahead was silence and mystery. For a brief second, she wondered if she should turn back. But curiosity, especially in a child, doesn't wait long. It nudged her forward. She stepped inside. The room felt untouched by the rush of the outside world. Everything was neat, calm, and carefully arranged, as though time moved slower within its walls. There was a quiet dignity in the air, something that made the space feel important without saying a word. But Charlotte wasn't there to admire any of it. Her mind was still racing with the game. She needed a hiding place, fast. Her eyes moved quickly around the room, and then settled on the bed. Without much thought, she crouched down and slipped beneath it, suppressing a small giggle as she imagined her brother searching for her elsewhere. The space was dim and filled with shadows, but to Charlotte it felt like the perfect hiding spot. Hidden, secret, safe. And then she noticed something. At first it was just a small irregularity, a slight gap in the wooden floor beneath her. It didn't belong there. The floor, like everything else in the room, was meant to be flawless. Yet this gap seemed deliberate, almost as if it had been placed there on purpose. Her curiosity sharpened. Carefully, she shifted closer, brushing away a bit of dust as she examined it. The gap was not random. It was an opening, a concealed space, hidden in plain sight, unnoticed by anyone who wasn't looking closely enough. Charlotte reached toward it. What she uncovered was far from ordinary. Beneath the surface lay a hidden compartment. Inside it rested a small wooden box, aged, worn, and clearly not meant to be found. Its surface carried the marks of time, as though it had been placed there many years ago and deliberately forgotten. It wasn't decorative. It wasn't displayed. It was hidden, intentionally. To Charlotte, this discovery felt like something out of a storybook, a secret treasure tucked away in the heart of a palace. Her imagination sparked instantly. What could be inside? Why was it hidden? Who had placed it there? But beyond her innocent wonder, the moment carried a deeper weight, because while Charlotte saw adventure, history saw something else entirely. Not just a box, not just a secret, but a piece of the past, quietly waiting to be uncovered. So, why is that box in Camilla's room? Who owns it? How did it get there? What does it contain? Let's find out. The emerald. refused to stay lost. When King Charles III lifted the lid of the small, time-worn box, something in the room shifted. It was as if the air itself held its breath. Inside, resting quietly yet powerfully, was an emerald ring, radiant, unmistakable, and heavy with meaning far beyond its beauty. This was not just a piece of jewelry meant to sparkle under light or adorn a royal hand. This ring carried history. It had once belonged to Queen Elizabeth II, a woman whose life defined duty, resilience, and continuity. Later, it found its way to Princess Diana, a figure who transformed the monarchy with her warmth, compassion, and deeply human touch. Two women, two eras, one shared symbol. The ring became more than an heirloom. It became a silent thread linking generations, embodying trust, legacy, and an unspoken understanding of what it meant to carry the weight of the crown. And then, suddenly, it was gone. After Diana's tragic passing, the ring disappeared without warning. No announcement was made. No record explained its absence. It simply slipped out of sight, as though it had chosen to retreat into the shadows along with the grief that followed her death. For years, there were no answers. Only quiet speculation and unanswered questions whispered behind palace walls. People moved on, as they always do. Time softened the sharp edges of loss, yet the mystery of the missing ring lingered, buried beneath layers of royal protocol and silence. Until now. Its unexpected reappearance was not just surprising, it was deeply unsettling. Hidden beneath the floorboards of a private bedroom shared by Charles and Camilla, the ring had been concealed in a place that suggested intention, not accident. This was not something misplaced or forgotten. It had been deliberately kept out of sight, as though someone had wanted it to remain undiscovered. But why? That question hung heavily in the air, far louder than any spoken word. Because in the world of royalty, nothing is ever as simple as it seems. Every object carries meaning. Every gesture holds intention. And every secret, no matter how carefully hidden, eventually finds its way back into the light. The discovery of the ring did not just reopen an old mystery, it breathed life into it. Was it hidden to protect it, or to protect someone else? Was its disappearance tied to grief, to politics, or to something far more personal? And perhaps most unsettling of all, who knew it was there? These are not easy questions. And in a setting where tradition and image are carefully guarded, answers do not come quickly. What makes this story even more compelling is the nature of royal heirlooms themselves. They are never just valuable because of their materials. Gold, emeralds, and craftsmanship may catch the eye, but it is the stories attached to them that give them true weight. They witness private moments, silent decisions, and turning points that never make it into official records. This ring had seen two extraordinary women wear it, each leaving behind a legacy that continues to shape public memory and royal identity. To lose it was to lose a small but meaningful piece of that shared history. And to find it again, under such strange and secretive circumstances, feels less like closure and more like the beginning of something new, because its return raises a deeper truth. Some stories are never truly finished. They wait. They do not shout. They do not rush. Instead, they wait, quietly, patiently, resting in the background of memory, refusing to disappear. Time may pass, distractions may grow, but they remain. And then, at the exact moment they can no longer be avoided, they rise, not softly, not politely, but with a force that demands to be felt. They call for attention. They stir deep thought. They press for answers that can no longer be postponed. The emerald ring is no longer just a relic of what once was. It is no longer a simple piece of history. It has transformed into something far more unsettling, a question that lingers, a puzzle that refuses to be solved. It stands as a quiet reminder that even in places built on order, control, and precision, there are cracks. Within those cracks live stories that will not stay hidden, truths that refuse silence. No matter how carefully they are buried, no matter how long they are ignored, they find a way back. Still incomplete, still unanswered. And now, standing at the surface, clear, present, and impossible to push aside. But what happened next? How did it get into Camilla's possession? Which other questions ran through King Charles's mind? Let's delve into the details of the unpredicted move that shook the monarchy. Suspicion, silence, and a dangerous move. From that very moment, something unseen yet powerful began to take shape, a quiet gathering storm beneath the polished surface of royal calm. King Charles III, ever mindful of the weight of the crown, chose not to act in haste. Instead of public confrontation, he turned to patience and precision. initiating a discreet investigation that unfolded far from the eyes of the world. Nothing was announced, nothing was revealed. Yet behind closed doors, questions were being asked, patterns examined, and truths slowly pursued. But while the king operated in silence, another shift was becoming impossible to ignore. Queen Camilla was no longer at ease. It was subtle at first, almost unnoticeable to the untrained eye. Her words, once fluid and confident, grew measured, as though each sentence had to pass through careful scrutiny before being spoken. Her demeanor changed too. Where there had once been natural composure, there was now a guarded stillness. She seemed more aware of her surroundings than ever before, as though she could feel something closing in, something she could neither see nor fully control. And then came the decision, the one that would change everything. Wasn't made lightly. It couldn't be. But under the quiet cover of night, away from the formalities and watchful eyes of palace life, Camilla made a move that carried both risk and urgency. She reached out to someone from the past, a former insider. This was no ordinary contact. This was someone who understood the palace from the inside out, its routines, its hidden corners, its strengths, and more importantly, its weaknesses. Together, they crafted a plan. It was simple in idea, but dangerous in execution. Locate the box, retrieve it, eliminate whatever it contained, and restore silence before anything could surface. No noise, no trace, no questions. But what they didn't realize was this. The palace was no longer unaware. Things had changed. The quiet investigation had already sharpened the senses of those within. Security was tighter. Awareness was higher. The illusion of invisibility was gone. Still, the plan was set in motion. Under the veil of darkness, the intruder moved, step by step, carefully navigating the silent corridors, blending into the shadows as though he had never left them. Every movement was calculated, every sound avoided. It was almost perfect, almost, because fate had something else in mind. At that very moment, in a part of the palace untouched by the unfolding scheme, Catherine, Princess of Wales, noticed something. It wasn't loud, it wasn't obvious, just a faint, unusual sound, one that didn't belong. But instinct is a powerful thing, and hers did not hesitate. She paused, listened again, then acted. With calm urgency, she alerted security. What followed happened quickly, far too quickly for the plan to recover. Within minutes, the stillness of the night was broken. Guards moved in, paths were sealed, escape routes vanished before they could be reached. The intruder was caught. Just like that, the carefully constructed plan unraveled. What had been designed to remain hidden was now exposed, standing in the harsh light of reality. There were no more shadows to hide in, no more silence to protect it. And with the intruder came something even more powerful than his capture. The truth. Not whispers, not suspicions, but something real, something undeniable. What had been buried, what had been nearly erased, was now within reach. And as the walls of secrecy began to crack, one thing became clear. The storm that had been quietly building was no longer contained. What did King Charles discover from investigations? How did he react to the discovery? Let's delve into the details of how the investigation claims, and King Charles's response to the revelations. The hidden archive that changed everything. The confession, as shocking as it seemed, was only the first crack in a much larger story. When King Charles III began to look deeper, he quickly realized that the matter went far beyond a single emerald ring. What he uncovered next unsettled him in a way he had not expected. It wasn't just about a missing piece of jewelry anymore. It was about something far more delicate, far more serious. History itself. His search quietly led him to a private residence connected to Queen Camilla. From the outside, the estate appeared calm, almost forgettable. It was the kind of place no one would look at twice. Peaceful, orderly, and deliberately unremarkable. But behind that quiet exterior, something unusual was waiting. Inside the residence, hidden away from casual view, was a locked room. When it was finally opened, the sight inside was both fascinating and deeply troubling. The room was carefully organized, almost like a private archive. Shelves stretched from wall to wall, each one filled with neatly arranged boxes. There was no sense of chaos. Everything had been placed with intention, with care, almost as if it were part of a curated collection. But this was no ordinary collection. Inside those boxes were royal heirlooms, items that carried the weight of legacy and memory. These were not just accessories, they were symbols, pieces that had once belonged to Queen Elizabeth II and Princess Diana. necklaces that had adorned state banquets, earrings that had caught the light during historic appearances, brooches that had silently witnessed decades of royal tradition. Each piece told a story. Each one held a fragment of the past. For a moment, the discovery itself was enough to take in. But what truly unsettled Charles was not the presence of the jewels. It was what came with them. Attached to many of the items were handwritten notes. At first glance, they seemed harmless. Simple labels, perhaps meant to organize the collection. But as he read them more closely, a pattern began to emerge. The notes claimed that these heirlooms had been given as gifts to Camilla. The wording was casual, almost effortless, as though these transfers of ownership had always been understood. Yet something about the notes didn't sit right. They appeared recently. There were no official records to support them. No documentation, no witnesses, no clear timeline. Just ink on paper, quietly making bold claims that could not easily be proven or traced. To Charles, the implication was impossible to ignore. This was not simply about keeping valuable items safe. It did not feel like preservation or even sentimentality. It felt like something else entirely, something deliberate. It felt like a quiet rewriting of history, because in the world of the monarchy, objects are never just objects. They carry meaning. Ownership is not just about possession, it is about legacy, about continuity, about the stories that are passed down from one generation to the next. To change the story of an item is, in a way, to change the story of the people connected to it. And that is what made this discovery so unsettling. If these notes were accepted as truth, they would slowly reshape how these heirlooms were understood. What once belonged to one era could be redefined as belonging to another. What was once shared heritage could become personal property. Over time, the original story could fade, replaced by something quieter, simpler, and possibly untrue. Standing in that room, surrounded by pieces of the past, Charles began to see the situation differently. The emerald ring, the one that had first raised questions, was no longer the center of the mystery. It was not the problem in itself. It was the clue that had led him here. A single thread that, once pulled, began to unravel something much larger, something carefully arranged, something hidden in plain sight. And now, the real question was no longer about what had been taken. It was about what had been changed. How was Queen Elizabeth heirlooms missing for decades? What was her collection of jewelry like? Let's dive into the details of Queen Elizabeth's legendary royal jewelry collection, the Royal Heirlooms and Personal Jewels of Elizabeth II. The personal jewelry collection of Queen Elizabeth II was not just a display of beauty and wealth. It was a living archive of history, tradition, and global connection. Distinct from the official crown jewels used during coronations and major state ceremonies, her private collection held a more intimate and evolving story. It is believed that parts of this remarkable collection can be traced as far back as the 16th century, carrying with them the legacy of centuries of monarchy. Over the course of her long life, the Queen accumulated more than 300 pieces of jewelry. These ranged from delicate brooches and elegant necklaces to grand tiaras, bracelets, rings, watches, and pendants. Each piece had its own story, some rooted in royal inheritance, others marking significant personal or diplomatic moments. Whether she was attending a state banquet, posing for an official portrait, or receiving world leaders, her jewelry choices were never random. They often reflected tradition, subtle messaging, and her own refined personal taste. A large portion of her collection consisted of what are known as crown heirlooms. These were not owned by her as an individual, but belonged to the monarchy itself. As such, they were passed down from one ruler to the next, forming a continuous thread linking generations of British sovereigns. These heirlooms symbolized stability and continuity, reminding the world that the monarchy endures beyond any single reign. At the same time, the Queen also possessed many personal pieces. Some were gifts given to her during important life events, such as her wedding, while others were presented by foreign leaders and dignitaries during state visits. These gifts were often rich in meaning, representing friendship, respect, and diplomatic ties between nations. Interestingly, the Queen had the authority to decide whether such personal items would remain private or be added to the royal collection, thereby becoming part of the monarchy's shared heritage. Among the most fascinating items in her collection were those with deep historical roots. For example, the Jubilee bracelet of Queen Victoria stood as a reminder of a previous era of British greatness. There were also exquisite diamond rings crafted from the legendary Cullinan diamond, one of the largest and most famous diamonds ever discovered. These pieces were not just valuable, they were iconic. The Queen's tiaras, in particular, captured global attention. Designs like the Oriental circlet showcased incredible craftsmanship and timeless elegance. These were often worn during grand occasions, adding a sense of majesty and spectacle to royal appearances. Equally impressive were matching jewelry sets, known as parures, such as the Brazil aquamarine set. These sets, carefully coordinated in design and gemstones, reflected both luxury and artistic harmony. Beyond their physical beauty, these jewels carried powerful symbolic meanings. They told stories of alliances, celebrations, and transitions. A brooch could signal respect for a visiting nation, while a necklace might commemorate a personal milestone. In this way, the Queen used her jewelry not only as adornment, but also as a quiet form of communication. In essence, Queen Elizabeth II's jewelry collection was far more than a treasury of glittering objects. It was a carefully preserved legacy, one that blended personal sentiment with public duty. Each piece served as a bridge between the past and the present, linking centuries of royal history while continuing to evolve with each new chapter. Through these heirlooms, the enduring story of the British monarchy was told, not in words, but in diamonds, gold, and gemstones that have witnessed history unfold. What was done to Camilla after the discovery was made? Could she have meant no harm when taking possession of the box? Will the monarchy be able to retain its legacy afterwards? Let's find out. A silent fall and a legacy preserved. What unfolded next did not explode into headlines or public outrage. There were no dramatic announcements, no televised confrontations. Instead, it was something far more controlled, measured, deliberate, and quietly decisive. A reckoning, not for the public eye, but for those entrusted with truth behind closed doors. In a private setting, far removed from cameras and speculation, a select council gathered. Individuals bound not only by loyalty, but by a strict code of silence. Here, the matter was not rumor or suspicion. It was evidence. Piece by piece, what had long been whispered in uncertainty was laid out with clarity. Documents were reviewed, timelines were examined. Witnesses, careful and composed, gave their accounts. Each voice added weight, each detail tightened the narrative. And something subtle began to shift. The silence that had once served as a shield, protecting reputations, maintaining order, no longer concealed. Instead, it exposed. It became the very thing that pointed to what had been hidden for so long. Queen Camilla, however, did not openly admit to anything. There was no moment of confession, no dramatic acceptance of guilt. But just as striking as words can be, is their absence. And in this case, her silence spoke volumes. Because while she did not confess, neither did she emerge untouched. The consequences came quietly. At first, they were almost unnoticeable. A missed appearance here, a withdrawn engagement there. Then gradually, the pattern became clearer. Invitations ceased. Public outings stopped altogether. Her once familiar presence, steady, visible, expected, began to dissolve into the background. Mentions of her grew infrequent, then rare, then almost non-existent. No official statement explained it, no formal announcement confirmed it, and yet the absence itself became a message, one more powerful than any press release could have been. It told a story of accountability without declaration, of judgment without spectacle, a quiet consequence, an unspoken verdict. As for King Charles III, his role in this moment was not one of triumph. There was no sense of victory in what he chose to do. If anything, it carried the weight of something heavier, responsibility. His decision was not about shielding an individual, nor about personal loyalty. It was about something far greater, preservation, not of a person, but of an institution. A legacy that stretches beyond individuals, beyond moments, beyond even generations. He understood what was at stake, because in the end, this was never simply about a missing ring, nor about a single incident confined to a single moment in time. It was about the deeper struggle between what is true and what is presented as truth, between memory, as it genuinely exists, and the subtle ways it can be reshaped, retold, or even distorted. It was about the fragile boundary that separates history as it happened, from history as someone might prefer it to be remembered. And that boundary, once disturbed, is not easily restored. Perhaps that is what makes this story linger. Not the facts alone, but the questions they leave behind. Because if something as small, as seemingly insignificant as a hidden box could begin to unravel layers of silence, influence, and carefully maintained narratives, then what else remains concealed? What other truths lie just beneath the surface, undisturbed not because they are insignificant, but because they have not yet been found? And more importantly, Who will find them? Because history has a way of revealing itself, but rarely on its own terms. It waits, patiently, quietly, until the right moment and the right hands bring it into the light. And when that moment comes, as it inevitably does, the question will not be whether the truth matters, but whether those who uncover it are ready for what it might change. So, what do you think about Meghan Markle's role in the success of her marriage? Was Harry right to have let go of Chelsea? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.